is the Mindful Melbourne Maker Knitting Podcast channel. Welcome to my third mini episode about the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, or MKAL, for 2024. This video is going to be all about Clue 4, and I am going to show you one of my past Mystery Knit Along shawls that I've also knit. So I hope you've enjoyed and watched the first two clues, and this video is all about Clue 3. So you can find me on Instagram as Mindful Melbourne Maker and on Ravelry as kathsmartin, and I also have sock pattern designs and some other patterns available on Ravelry under kathsmartin designs. Thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed this and the other videos, please give it a like and feel free to hit the subscribe button. It is free and it just spreads the joy and the love in our community and helps get my videos out there. So welcome to the Clue 3 wrap up for the Mystery Knit Along. It is Thursday the 24th of October, which means the new clue comes out tonight, so it's very exciting. I actually finished knitting on this clue this morning, so cutting it very fine. And of course, there's no drama at all if you don't finish the clues in time for the next clues. I just was close enough to the end of this clue that I just felt like I should be able to finish it in time for the new clue, and I was able to do that this morning, which was very nice. So before we jump into Clue 3, I'm going to show you one of my previous Mystery Knit Along shawls of Stephen West that I have knit. So in the first video I showed you my twists and turns shawl. In the second video for Clue 2 I showed you the shawlography, which I knit not during the Mystery Knit Along, so I actually knit that in 2023. And then the shawl I'm going to show you today is actually my Geogradient Mystery Knit Along shawl from 2023. So this one I did knit during the knit along, the Mystery Knit Along with everybody else, and it was the second time I had knit along with the mystery. So it was an interesting experience in terms of that knit along, and I think a lot of other people have spoken about the process of that particular knit along and the issues that Stephen West faced in that first clue, and the way that he sort of pivoted with the pattern. So I won't go into too much detail around all of that. I enjoyed, for the most part, I enjoyed knitting along the shawl. I enjoyed the knit along, and I do enjoy very much the end result. I love this shawl. I love wearing it. I think it has a lot to do with the colours and the theme that I chose. But yeah, so I wear this one a lot. It's a good one, but the process, it was a little bit of a bumpy journey, but isn't that just like life? Life can be bumpy at times, so that's how it is. So let's look at my Geogradient shawl. So this is it here. So first and foremost, you'll notice the really bright colours and the very pink palette. So as I've talked about before in my previous videos, I choose a theme when I am knitting along in the Mystery Knit Along groups and as part of the MKAL, and that just keeps me motivated. It keeps me focused on something where, even though I don't know what the shawl design is and I don't know what's coming next, I know that I'm enjoying it because I've picked a theme and my colours are reflective of the theme, so it just gives me something that I do know about the shawl. So for this one, I wonder if you can guess the theme. It was in 2023, and the sort of one of the big movies of last year was Barbie movie. So the Barbie movie was my theme, and I'll put up a pic of my sort of inspiration picture and how I sort of chose the colours was based on this photo. And the yarn that I used was Blackwattle yarn and fibre. It's the base Sweet Pea. Now I do have a skein. It's a different colour, but this is a skein of that yarn here. So you see it there. Now this yarn is absolutely beautiful. It's a single ply, so it is that little bit more delicate. It is different to knit with than plied yarn, I think, in my experience. So would I say I loved the process of knitting with it? It was okay, I enjoyed it, but the end result is spectacular, and it's beautiful yarn. So it is 60% superwash merino, 20% alpaca and 20% silk. And I've actually been to this farm. This farm is just outside Canberra, and when we went to the ACT, not last year, the year before, we came home and dropped in to see all the alpacas at Blackwattle farm, and it was just a delight. They have a really, really beautiful farm shop and yarn shop, and did a lot of damage when I went there and bought a lot of yarn. But this base is beautiful, and they have it in an amazing selection of colours, so I really recommend checking that out. This colour, if you're interested in this colour, is actually called Pale Coral. I bought this as, I bought probably 5 or 6 colours because I wasn't sure how the colours were going to arrive and how they would match up to my theme. This was one of them. I decided not to use this, but I will tell you the colours that I did end up using. So we've got 4 colours of the Sweet Pea in this shawl, and maybe I'll show you the border. So the darkest colour that you'll see there, the sort of purpley pink, is called Magenta. The next brightest colour, so that colour there, it's the real Barbie pink colour. That is called Ambition. Then there's a sort of there's a mid pink just in there. You'll see kind of a mid pink. That one is called Acceptance. And then the very lightest, that it's quite pale, this one here, that one is called Cherished. So if you're looking for these exact colours, that's what they are. But I used those colours throughout, pretty much as directed in the pattern. Clue 1 was where we knit a particular design in Clue 1, and then that design got switched up because there was some issues with the design, and people felt like you know, it reflected less than positive intentions and things, and Stephen West just dealt with the whole thing, I thought, very, very well. I had knit maybe 85–90% of the clue when it got changed, and I did have that moment of, do I really want to start again? I've knit almost the entire clue, but given the way everybody felt about it, it was just, I felt, a really good way to support, to show that, you know, supporting those that did have strong feelings about it. And I just started again, and it was really fun to do that, because it really helped me to get over that sense of, oh, I've knit, you know, a particular amount in a project, I can't possibly rip it back even if there's a mistake or things like that. So it helped me to get over that. So it was actually a really good learning experience. And I just knit the I knit a version of the new Clue 1 in the shawl, but I actually added in a lot of different colours of mohair. So that was my way to kind of make it a bit more fun after all the drama. There wasn't any specific mohair dare called out, but he did say, you know, you can add in mohair wherever you like. So I actually chose 3 different colours of mohair, and I added them in a lot in the Clue 1. It's hard to sort of tell in there, but I also added in some mohair in the border, where you can see in the bind off is quite fluffy, and that final row there is actually Mohair held double, so it just added a bit of fluff, a bit of fun, and I think just improved my experience of knitting the shawl overall. So the mohair that I did use, there's a really beautiful pink mohair in there. That one is from Colagirl Collective, and the colour was Gossip Girl. Then there was this beautiful sort of pale pink mohair in there, and that's from Fibresmith, and it's called Raspberry Sorbet. And then there's this absolutely beautiful speckled variegated yarn, mohair, hand-dyed mohair from Lovely Little Yarns, who isn't dyeing anymore, but it has a lot of those really pinks, but also fluoro yellows and things that were in my theme picture, so I thought it was perfect, and it just added a little bit of depth to the project. So for the most part, I enjoyed knitting this shawl. The bit I didn't enjoy was actually not Clue 1 and all of the drama around that. It was actually these wings with these slip stitches, which I have to say the texture is phenomenal, and I absolutely love the look of them now, but it took absolutely forever to knit these sections because there's a lot of slip stitches. The amount that you're knitting is really contracted, and so you know, you felt like you'd knit, if you'd knit 40 rows, it felt like you'd knit forever and you'd only knit about this much. And it was just a real slog to get through one wing, and then you had to pick up and do the exact same thing on the other side, which almost crushed my spirit. But I got there in the end, and then this border is absolutely beautiful. Now you'll see my shawl, there was the option, and a lot of people chose to put big tassels on the bottom to really kind of weigh that border down and, you know, give it a real boho look. I quite like kind of big chunky tassels on the ends of things, but I'm not so much with the fringe. That's not really my vibe. So I chose not to do that. But I do really love the border, and most of knitting this border was really enjoyable. Mostly it was just knit across, purl back, and then there was 2 rows in each colour where there was just a horrendous amount of dip stitching and purling through, you know, purling 2 together or 3 together or something. I think I've blocked it from my memory. But it did turn out absolutely beautifully. But I have to say, I've seen he's put out shawls that are entirely this pattern, and I would never knit those. So this is my Geogradient, and I really love it, and I wear it quite a lot because I love the colours. I think it goes with a lot of the things that I wear. So it turned out really well in the end. So yeah, so did you knit the Geogradient, and what do you think of it? Maybe pop in the comments below. I'd love to hear who else finished theirs and whether you wear yours as well. So that was 2023. So let's come back to this year. This is the Go-Go Dynamo shawl, and I am knitting it up with a theme of Rings of Power. As I've shown you before, this is the inspiration picture that I've used for this year. I love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and Rings of Power is a really great show, and it has very strong colours throughout the show, particularly in the sort of teal and silver and gold palette. So that's what I've gone with. I'm holding my shawl in my Crystal Cat Stitchery corduroy, beautiful corduroy bag. So that's there. Now, the first thing to notice about the end of Clue 3 is, here's my needles. The shawl is no longer on needles. I have no live stitches. It is all bound off. So I'm very intrigued as to what is happening in Clue 4. So just in case you're wondering, I use Chiagu red lace needles. I love the cord. The cord for knitting shawls I think is perfection, and I'm knitting it on 3.75mm needles, so I went up a needle size from what is suggested in the pattern, because Stephen West is quite a loose knitter and I'm more towards, I'm not super tight, but I'm tighter than Stephen West. So the colours that I'm using, I've broken into my second skeins. So this is all the yarn I have left for clue 4. It should be plenty, but these yarns are from Hodgepodge Skeins. That's the label, Hodgepodge Skeins. And so this colour is Tealriffic, and this colour, which is a sort of beautiful white variegated, is white gold. So those are my 2 colours. And you'll see I've also popped in Kremke Stellaris, so the sort of shimmery, silvery and gold thread. So last week I had showed you that I've popped in the silver colour of the Stellaris in the bubbles section. This week in clue 3 I used this one, which is the pale gold colour, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And I got these ones from MakerMaker in Melbourne. So let's have a look at the shawl, which is now off the needles, but we still have 1 clue to go. So here it is. Let's go from one end. So we basically, for this clue, here it is there, all the way along. So for this clue, we basically knit a border. I thought Stephen actually was pretty careful throughout most of his video from this week to not call it a border, but he did at one point slip up and referred to it as a border. So I think we can assume that this is the border. Whether we then add to that, I don't know, but that's what we have knit this week. So clue 1, as I've talked about, were these big semicircles, which were all knit individually. We then did modular knitting to then pick up in between the semicircles with these garter sections. So one on the end, in between the semicircles, and then one on the other end. And we did 1 row of the bubbles in clue 1, and that was clue 1. And you'll see, I don't know if you can tell, but in the bubbles I've got that silver thread that I've held throughout those bubbles. Then clue 2, as I showed you last week, we did the brioche, 2-colour brioche, which I just used my 2 yarns. I didn't do the Mohair Dare. As I said, it wasn't really, I didn't feel like it aligned with my vibe of my theme. So I just did the 2 yarns, but I think it looks beautiful. And then I did the second row of bubbles. I did the eyelets as the second option. So I included both options in my shawl just for a bit of difference between the knitting and also in the way it looks. And the third row of bubbles was the end of clue 2. And so then clue 3, we basically picked up and, well, didn't pick up, we knit all of these tiny little wedges. And what you'll notice is that some of the wedges, so for the contrast color wedges, which is the white gold, that's just plain. I just held the yarn single as it is, and for every second wedge I held the main color plain, just to really show off that absolutely incredible teal color. But for every other main color wedge I actually held the teal with that gold thread, and so the shawl actually shimmers with both silver and gold. So for every second wedge you'll see, and you'll see my little coordinating dino stitch markers from Mavis Handmade. Oop, there, where are you? Come on. There you go. There we go, little dinosaur. I've got 3 of them on my shawl because they're just so beautifully coordinated. But yes, you'll see every second main color wedge actually has a gold shimmer to it, which is just amazing. This will certainly be my fancy shawl. But it is bound off. So the edge has an I-cord. So I think we can safely assume this is the bottom border, although I say that and watch Stephen prove me wrong. But it doesn't look like much, but it was a lot of knitting because these wedges are all done in short rows, which I love. I love short rows. Short rows are my jam. They are one of my absolute favorite things to knit. One of my favourite shawl projects was actually the Sea Dragon shawl by Amber O'Brien, which is entirely short rows. It was so much fun to knit, really, really quick. I love that shawl. I definitely want to knit that one again. But yeah, so all of these wedges were short rows, which I think you either love or you hate, or you strongly dislike. Maybe not hate, but strongly dislike, because I think the experience in our chat group has certainly been, some people have zoomed along and gone really quickly, and others have said this, you know, this doesn't make sense. I feel like I'm caught in the middle, I'm confused. But I really enjoyed the process. So a couple of things that I did. I didn't break my yarn all the way along. So I think he suggests you could break it after each wedge and then sew in all those, weave in all those ends. That sounds like a nightmare. No, thank you. So I just held the yarn the entire way along, and I caught it up in the I-cord, so you can't actually see the yarn going across at all. So the yarn that you're not using is wrapped up in the I-cord, and there's a way to do that. You just pull the yarn you're working with. Each time you get to the end where the other yarn is, you just pull it underneath the yarn and make sure you're catching the yarn that's resting. You catch it in that I-cord. You just make sure you pull it underneath, and you just give it a bit of a tug so you can make sure that the border's nice and stretchy. So that's what I did. The other thing I did in the videos and in the pattern, he's got place marker, remove marker, place marker, remove marker for every short row. And while that was helpful for the first probably 3 wedges to kind of get a sense of the pattern and where you needed to knit to and that kind of thing, I just felt like it slowed the whole process down to be constantly placing and removing a marker. So once I figured out what was happening, once I figured out the pattern, I can read my knitting, I can see where I'm knitting up to, and the pattern kind of got into my head after maybe 3 wedges. Then I just stopped using the marker. So if you haven't knit this clue yet and you say, you know, what's your biggest recommendation? Don't use the marker. Just work out what's happening in the pattern, read your knitting, and then don't worry about the marker because it slows you down a lot. But yeah, otherwise it was really enjoyable. It's a lot more knitting than it looks like. It looks like this tiny little bit of knitting, but there's actually 20 main colour wedges and 19 contrast colour wedges. So that is a lot. But it is very striking. It's very beautiful. I've seen lots of different versions on Instagram. I saw so my affinity for lots of bright colours. I saw someone who had done every single wedge in a different bright colour, which I just thought looked spectacular. But then my secondary thought was, that's a lot of ends to weave in, so maybe don't do that. But I'm really excited about where we're going for clue 4. So we don't have any stitches on the needles. I'm thinking that we're going to pick up along this top edge somehow, who knows, and make it less like a scarf and more like a shawl shape. So that's where I think it's going, but who knows, I could be totally wrong, and it could be going in a completely different direction. So we'll just have to see. And so yeah, so that's it on clue 3. Clue 4 comes out tonight. I've got a bunch of things I'm doing today and this afternoon, so I'm not sure when I'll get to starting clue 4, whether it will be tonight or maybe tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to knitting that, and I'm looking forward to finishing and showing you all and sharing it and wearing it, more importantly, because it is going to be spectacular. And it is cold enough in Melbourne today. It's been a bit hot this week, but it's actually really cold today, so there's obviously a little bit more cold weather before it warms up, so it would be good to finish this and be able to wear it a couple of times before it gets folded away for summer. So yes. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. So I hope you're enjoying knitting on the Mystery Knit Along, or following along if you're not knitting on it, and following others on Instagram and on YouTube who are knitting it as well. And I hope you're enjoying what you are making, and I hope that I'll see you next week. Thanks everyone. Bye.